Good evening, everybody, and thanks for joining. My name is Josh, and this is week 3 video submission for FTH 202. As always, we've got a lot to cover and a little time to do it, so let's get over it. Welcome back, and thank you for joining me. We've got a lot to go over, so let's go ahead and get into it. Before we do, though, I'll go ahead and show that the cylinder is removed. The firearm is clear, obviously. So the first portion that we're going to talk about is this part right here called the hand with the half moon cut out. What this does in the cycle of operations is it acts in the cocking portion of the cycle of operations. It does so by interacting with the ratchet face here, which will rotate the cylinder, allowing the next available cartridge to be lined up with the barrel. So now that we have the hand out of the way, quick and rough. Oh, side note, just so you can see the operation, as you pull the hammer back, the nose of this hand will come up, interacting with that. This nose can get wore down as well as the ratchet. So one of the ways to remedy that is for a gunsmith to purchase, say, a oversized hand for this model and hand fit it. He is going to have to go through and find the proper timing, but it can be done. So with that, the next portion that we're going to talk about is the cylinder stop, which is this item right here. So the cylinder stop gets its power from the spring in the yoke. As the hammer is pulled back, the spring will interact with the front face of this cylinder stop, causing the nub to pop up. When the nub pops up, it'll interlock into these cylinder notches, locking the cylinder in with the chamber in position with the barrel. With this, if any issues arise, this can involve mistiming, a bad spring, perhaps this is bent and not getting full motion. So with that, a new cylinder stop would have to be purchased and installed by a competent gunsmith. The next portion we're going to cover is the sear, and with this being a double action, single action revolver, there are two to speak about. The first one at the bottom of the hammer is your single action sear. This will give you decreased trigger pull, a crisper trigger pull, as well as increased accuracy. The hammer does have to be pulled all the way back to put it into single action mode. As such. The next one to talk about is the double action sear. The double action sear has a spring behind it, and this is powered simply by pulling the trigger. So, well, you can see a basic beginning of the motion. Now with the sears, you can run into issues, say the sear face becomes rounded or becomes burred. In that case, you are going to want to definitely take it to a competent gunsmith, because these angles must be maintained for safety purposes. If not, you could be giving your customer a defective, unsafe gun, which as gunsmiths is something we never want to do. The next and final portion that we're going to talk about is the hammer strut, this portion right here with the spring. The hammer strut is held in place by spring pressure along this plate in a channel. Now, with the hammer strut, some of the deficiencies that we may see, this power is also, take a step back, in the cycle of operations, this will power the firing portion of the cycle of operations. When the hammer is fully to the rear, this spring is what will force it forward when the trigger is pulled and the sear releases. Some of the issues that we can come into with this would be a cracked spring, burrs on the bar itself, or perhaps a bent transfer bar. Any one of these problems can lead to binding as the transfer bar tries to travel down, which could lead to issues such as a light primer strike or perhaps even seizing up the firearm. So, with that, we've covered the 4 basic parts for week 3 and a basic function of their, or a basic principle of their function in the cycle of operations. With that, we'll go to our next portion of the video, and I hope to see you there. Knowing what twist rate is and how to determine it can be a great tool for a modern gunsmith in helping a customer decide a modern day load for maximum accuracy. What we're going to do with this revolver is just that. With the tool provided, we have a cleaning rod with a jag, a clear and safe weapon, a cleaning patch, measuring rod, and marker. So, what we're first going to do is put a flag onto our rod. I like to add a starting mark on the handle. What we then do, wrap the rod. Now this front point will give us an area to measure directly off the front of the barrel with the rifle. Now we're at the starting point. We start to push through. That was a little fast. We'll come back. Now I've moved about 1/8 of an inch. So I will put a mark right there. Grab a new pad, and I like to confirm my readings. Back at our start point. And we're at the same spot. So now we will mark the rod. And you'll have to forgive me, that made a horrible mark, so we'll have to redo that again.
Hey, get out of the chair. Hey, motherfucker.
Still in the same spot.
Puppy, get out of the chair. Get from underneath the chair. The couch.
Now we have our mark. So, measuring that mark, we have just under 2 3/8. For what we're doing, we can go 2 inches. So we know that we have approximately 1/8 inch of a twist. So we need to find out what that equation is. So we'll take the 2 and the 8, multiply that, and we get 16 inches. So that will give us a 1 16 inch twist roughly. With that, this video is concluded. Thank you for joining me.